and there's a tree that falls exactly in that V-notch. And now I'm going to walk to it. All right, here we go. Sunday's video, we're going to do something different. Why? For several reasons. I'll get into a couple of those here in a minute. The main reason is I'm at Buckeye Bushcraft. We had our Modern Skill Survival course up here. We had 2 of those. We have 1 more May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I want to utilize this classroom for the online portion of my online classroom, as promised 2.5, 3 years ago. It's actually happening. We're currently filming it right now. So you guys are going to get a taste of that. Another reason is I want to use this area, go back and look at myself, critique it, see what could be done differently, done better for the online classroom. We're at that point now where we're getting 3 to 5% views on videos, and will this actually hurt me by not doing an overnighter? Probably not. So what have I got to lose? So why not change it up? All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get into simple land nav. And I'm calling it simple because I have trained 9-year-old children, and they went out there and got 100% on land nav courses. So if you have a problem with land navigation, if you become easily confused, if you've watched several videos and there's terminology and people up there wheeling and dealing and making up as they go, if you've done land nav courses and get out there and get lost, this video is designed to give you simple tips and tricks to make you an expert. Number 1, the main purpose of a compass. No matter what type of compass it is, a lensetic compass, base plate compass, engineering compass, its sole purpose is to help you walk an imaginary straight line from point A to point B. And nothing else. Now, modern compasses do a lot more things. But the sole function is to have you walk an imaginary straight line through the desert, through the woods, through the jungles, and get you to where you need to be. For most individuals doing land navigation, they utilize 2 types of compasses. One, I'll show you a picture of it. It's a military Kamanga compass, otherwise known as a lensetic compass. The second type is a base plate compass. It has a rectangular base plate. Some have an actual lid with a mirror, and some do not. For this class right here, we're going to use the Suunto MC2 with the lid and the sighting mirror or signal mirror. I'm going to go over the basic parts that are exactly the same, whether you use one with the lid or not. And once we get to the lid, we'll talk about that. But again, choose one with a lid or without. They're both a base plate compass, and they both have this information right here. All right, so first things first, looking at your compass, this round disc right here is called a bezel ring. Take your index finger and thumb and you can rotate it left or right or do a full 360 on it. It's indicated right here, your bezel ring. Looking inside of your bezel ring, you're going to notice a hollow red arrow and a magnetic floating needle. Half is red, half is black. With simple land navigation, you're concerned about one thing, the red portion of that arrow. And your only concern with that red portion is rotating it to where it is inside of the hollow red arrow. Now continuing to look at our bezel ring, look at the outside. You notice those black hash marks, we call them tick marks. It's indicated right here. Every single tick mark on a Suunto MC2 or a base plate compass is worth 2 degrees. This comes into play when we're going to learn how to shoot our azimuth here in a few minutes and then walk that imaginary straight line. Just remember, every single tick mark is called out in 2-degree intervals. Now, also looking at your tick marks, every 5th tick mark is elongated. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 degrees. But they're called out in 20-degree intervals. While we're talking about tick marks, we've already discussed that every single black tick mark is worth 2 degrees. That's every even number. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're called out in increments of 20, right? Now, odd numbers are in between the tick marks. So make sure you understand that. Every tick mark is 2 degrees, even number. Odd numbers fall in between the tick marks. Now, how do we do that? Again, looking down at that round bezel ring, right above it, there's a large line and another large line at the bottom. One at the top, one at the bottom. I always tell students, think of Back to the Future. The top one tells you where you're going. The bottom one tells you where you were. So here is your azimuth and your reverse azimuth. These are simply found by rotating your bezel ring to the direction of travel, meaning north, east, south, and west, or having an actual azimuth 100 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees, 29 degrees, whatever you want to walk, you rotate it to where that number is directly underneath that line. And from there, we'll simply rotate our body until the red portion of the needle lands directly inside the hollow portion. And you'll be facing exactly on that azimuth that is written underneath your line. The last 2 things you need to know for a simple land nav class or land nav course is that base plate compasses always have a map reading tool, which is a magnification lens or sun lens. It can also be used to start fires. And on this model, we have a lid with a signal mirror or sighting mirror. So now we're going to practice exactly what we just talked about. Take your index finger and thumb, and let's say we want to walk south, just because we want to. Let's walk south. Spin your bezel ring until S or south is directly underneath that large line at the top of your compass. There's the line, and there's south. Now, once you have that, utilize both hands and your index fingers and thumb. Hold the compass around your navel or belly button area as level as possible. That's not level, to the side's not level. It has to be as level as possible so that needle can float freely. And then now you're going to simply turn your body, not your fingers. You're going to turn your body until the red and black needle, and we only care about the red portion of that needle, until the red portion of our magnetic needle lands directly centered inside of our red hollow arrow. Sometimes you hear the terms needle inside the doghouse, dog in the doghouse, red in the shed. And that's exactly what that means. You're going to turn your body and place the red portion inside the hollow portion. So here we go. And I'm facing due south. And that's the simplest way to dial in an azimuth or direction of travel. The red portion is directly inside the hollow arrow. S is underneath our line, which means that is our direction of travel, due south. Let's cover some points here before we get out there and actually practice land navigation. The first one, a compass will give you magnetic north. It's kind of common sense because you have a magnetic needle that floats in there. So the magnetic needle will give you magnetic north. Just like a map will give you grid north. Why? Because there's grid squares on a map. And true north is where Santa Claus lives. Think of it like that. Now, I'll cover this briefly because I'm always asked about it, and there's arguments about it, and some people are dead wrong and they want to argue it until they think they're right. Do you have to know declination in order to do land navigation? Here's the answer. Yes with a map, no with just a compass. And here's why. Every map tells you in that area it's 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 6 degrees, 14 degrees. The sole purpose of declination is to get your magnetic compass to marry up or jive with a grid map. Once you add or subtract your declination, they both become one, and you can use them to get an accurate reading of where you want to go. If you have no map, and I shoot 200 degrees, I'm going to walk 200 degrees. If you're 5 miles away and you shoot 200 degrees, you're going to walk 200 degrees from 5 miles away. Make sense? You are walking it. Not them, not her, not she, not they, not him. You are walking it. And that's why declination does not come into play when you're solely using a compass. With a map, yes. Now, let's move on. The main purpose of a compass is to walk a straight line and avoid lateral drift. Simply put, lateral drift is when you're walking and you tend to veer to one side or the other. And this happens for a number of reasons. You could have a leg injury. You have a back injury. One leg might be longer than the other. Your pack might not be balanced. There might be more weight on one side. You might have a rifle slung. You might know you tend to gravitate towards your dominant side, which maybe is your left side, so you overcompensate with your right side. Now you're moving to the right. So when you shoot an azimuth, create that imaginary straight line, you can now walk that straight line and avoid lateral drift by staying on that straight line. Make sense? And that's the sole purpose of using a compass. You've always heard about people walking in circles. It doesn't mean they're just standing in the woods doing this. It means over a long distance, they're veering with lateral drift. And they end up doing a circle, or they end up down here and they started over here, but they've walked 25 miles and they find them dead, but they were 2 miles from a town, or 500 yards from a road, or half a mile from when they started. That makes sense? Walk a straight line and avoid lateral drift. Now, let's go ahead and kick this off with how to shoot an azimuth. We showed how to orientate our body in the direction of travel. Now we're going to shoot that azimuth to walk that straight line. For those of you at home that want to go ahead and try this, we're going to shoot an actual azimuth. We've already showed you how to orientate your body in that direction. Now we're going to shoot it. So I dialed in west because I want to face this direction for the camera. Now from here, I'm going to look down, keeping the compass flat, put the red in the shed. And we got it. We're facing due west, okay, which is perfect. Now you can see what I'm going to do next. I'm going to stamp my feet shoulder width apart and get comfortable. I'm now going to imagine myself on a pistol range. I'm going to give myself a full presentation. In doing this, I want to raise the compass to my eye level. I'm not bringing my eye down to the compass. I want to raise it up and keep it as level as possible. From here, notice my arms are fully extended. I want to lift my sighting mirror until I can see that bezel ring in a flat position looking at me through that mirror. And that's about the distance you're going to need. I don't want to see a compass like that, because that means you're looking at an angle down here at it. You're bringing this up to you so you can look straight. Imagine a clock on a wall. A clock on a wall doesn't sit like this. It don't sit like that. It don't sit down like that. It sits flat. So I want to bring the reflection of that bezel ring to where I can see it. Raise it to eye level and keep it as level as possible. Now from here, slight adjustment, keeping that red in the shed. From here, I'm going to look down into this oval window right here. And there's a small V-notch in there as well. There's the oval window and the V-notch right there. And if you look, that tick mark is right there. And the number that you put in there, which is west, should be right in line with that V-notch. Now, like we said, we're going to focus on the oval window, and then directly at the bottom, there's a V-notch. Think of an old M16A2 rifle for those that served in the military. The front sight tip is about an 1/8 inch in width. You're focusing all of this to that front sight tip. It's the same thing for a compass. I can see all of this. I want that object in the distance, a tree or a rock, wherever it naturally falls. We're not moving it trying to find something. Whatever naturally falls in that V-notch, that's what I'm going to focus on. Because at that point, I just established an imaginary straight line between me and that object. Now, I can look and see it, and I can walk to it. Once I get to it, I'll do the exact same thing. Go to my opposite side of that object. Rotate my body. Get comfortable. And shoot again. And continue on my straight line. If the top line, where you place your letter or numbers, tells you where you're going, the bottom one tells you where you were, or a reverse azimuth to get you back where you came from. The beauty of these compasses that some people crap all over is the math is already done for you. Military compass, you have to do math equations for every single one of these. If I have 10 points I have to go to, I have to do math 10 times to get back to each point. Otherwise, how do I get back if I have no idea? This one, the math is done for you. So west is exactly 270 degrees. And according to this compass, my reverse azimuth is east. And that is 90 degrees. All we're going to do, index finger and thumb, rotate 90 degrees or east to the top. Put that red in the shed. Now I'm facing east. Get comfortable. Full presentation. Look to my oval window. Then to my V-notch. There's a tree in the distance. Or in this case, it'd be my truck. I can walk right back to it. Quick reference, north is always going to be 0 degrees. East will always be 90 degrees. South will always be 180 degrees. And west will always be 270 degrees. Now, most modern compasses, like we pointed out, azimuth, reverse azimuth. Math is done for you. Should you have a compass that does not have a line at the bottom, math will be required, especially if you're using a military Kamanga compass or a lensetic compass or some version of a lensetic compass. To do that, all you have to do is remember an acronym, LAMS, L-A-M-S. Like we just said, LAMS, that's an acronym. An acronym means every letter of a word is a separate word. L is less, A is add, M is more, and S is subtract. If your azimuth is less than 180 degrees, you add 180 degrees to get your reverse azimuth. If your azimuth is more than 180 degrees, you simply subtract 180 degrees. And the test is right here. Is 0 more or less than 180 degrees? It's less than 180 degrees. So we're going to add 180 degrees. Opposite of north is south. Make sense? Another example, west, 270 degrees. We weren't smart enough to get a Sunto MC2 where the math is done for you. We have some piece of junk from Walmart that there is no bottom indicator on it for reverse azimuth. What do? Is 270 more or less than 180? It's more than. So we're going to subtract 180. Subtracting 180 from 270 gives us 90. So we can dial in 90, go through the motions, and walk back to our previous point. Most land navigation courses nowadays use some type of bright color. In this case, we have a cattle tag. You've seen cows running around with earrings on their ears with numbers on them. It's the same idea. This is a cow earring or a cattle tag, and it's simply nailed to a tree. You flip it over. This one says 63 degrees. I take my index finger and thumb, and I'm going to dial in 63 degrees. Remember, our top tick mark is the bottom one. The top one tells me where I'm going, so we're going to spin it towards 63 degrees. And remember, in between our tick marks are the odd numbers. So there's 62 and 63. So our direction of travel is 63 degrees. We've already dialed that in. I now want to place my back against this tree, right next to my tag. I want to move my body until the red magnetic needle lands directly inside of my hollow arrow. I want to work myself around this tree to create that imaginary straight line in line with the tag behind me. Now, the reason you want your back to that tree is so that every tree you come to, you're creating a straight line between trees or between rocks, wherever the actual azimuth falls at. If I stand next to it, I'm going to create a parallel line. It'll still be straight, but I'll be parallel from it, meaning I'm a degree off, or 2 degrees off, or 5 degrees off, and that will accumulate over time, causing you to walk right by your tag and miss it every time. So simply keep your back to the tree. And put that red in the shed. Then get comfortable. Full presentation. Look into that oval window. Then the V-notch. And there's a tree that falls exactly in that V-notch. And now I'm going to walk to it. And once you get to your next tag, flip it over, 15 degrees, wash, rinse, repeat. And there you have it, simplified land navigation using a Asunto MC2 base plate compass. Now, there's a lot of other factors. One could be pace count, and if you're interested in that, pace count is simply nothing more than keeping track of distance as you walk it over time. I walked for 1 hour in the direction of 180 degrees, which we now know is south. How far did I walk? You calculate your pace count, and boom, okay, I walked 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, and so on and so forth. Just YouTube pace count. or pace counting. And I'm quite sure you're going to see 1,000 videos on there from every Tom, Dick, and Harry telling you how to do it. It's actually quite simple when you actually go out and do it, but that could be a separate video. Important takeaways are, you know the parts of the compass, you know the main purpose of the compass, to walk a straight line. You know how to shoot an azimuth. The math is done for you on a base plate Sunto MC2, so now you can do a reverse azimuth. And you know the proper procedure for working yourself around the tree to continue walking a straight line and never deviating off that straight line. Therefore, what? No lateral drift is involved. So again, it's simplified version, it's down and dirty. The only way you're going to ever get good at this or better is to actually go do it. And I suggest those that go out and hunt, when hunting season comes, practice this. You know there's a creek down there. Practice shooting to that creek, meaning trees that go to that creek. Even though you can see the creek, just practice shooting to the trees and write it down. Then go down the creek, shoot to some trees, write them down. When I say write it down, it means writing the azimuths down. When you sit in somewhere, taking a lunch break, you shot nothing that day, you're going to head back, get the reverse azimuths, and then shoot backwards and see how accurate you actually are. That way you're practicing something that's, you know, actually useful. On that note, let's go ahead and end this bad boy off. With that, all the gear in my videos can be found in 2 places. 1, my Amazon affiliate page, and 2, my Etsy store. Both links are found inside my description box. Now please do me that favor. Hit that like and subscribe button, then ring that notification bell. Once you ring that bell, please select all notifications. And as always, thank you for your comments, views, and support. Thanks for watching. Get out in the field, have some fun. I'm going to catch you next time. Alright, so bonus footage for those that stuck around. I wanted to see what the online classroom would look like being presented to an audience. So give me your feedback. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. You're limited on an online classroom. People say, well, you should do this, you should say that. You should do a lot of things, but you got to look at input, output. And that's why I went ahead and did this on a Sunday's video, because the input is me filming for 24 hours for an overnighter and get 5% of views of what I used to get. Input, output. When I film 2 regular videos, I get the same views. So again, input, output. Things are not going to improve. They haven't. It's been a steady decline for the past 3 years. So I'm trying to find other ways to get information out there, other ways to present things, other ways to do stuff. So let me know about this. Like I said, probably 3rd week of April. I can't say what platform is going to be on. I had 2 in mind, but then I just found a 3rd. So I'm thinking, I want to be somewhere where people are not, or other people are not, or certain people are not. That way, I'm the only one, and that could be a monopoly. So let me dial all that in, and then I'll let you guys know where it's at, what to do. It's going to be relatively cheap, cheaper than most classes, and that's what I want to go for. Meaning classes, meaning go to a facility for a class. But there's infinite things you can do with something like this, with nowadays distance education, distance learning, and that's where I want to go with this, and hopefully something good will come out of it. But yeah, next week we'll jump back on the bandwagon and get back to overnighters. I wanted to play with this and just see what happens. So hit me up and let me know. On that note, until next time, take care of yourself and each other.